Well, this video is about creating architectural images, photographing them, and processing them in Photoshop. Let's get started. I made my way into the city. I got to my destination and I am setting up, beginning to take some shots. Well, I took some shots from the 42nd Street side of my building, and I'm making my way around to see if I can get a different angle. So I'm on 43rd Street now, looking at the building from a different angle. Each direction you look, it kind of looks somewhat different, so I'm going to try a bunch of things and see what looks best. Well, I cross the street and I am looking up at the W.R. Grace building. It's a fantastic building with a curved facade, very straight lines going up. Got some nice cloud movement, so I'm working on a long exposure to try to capture that cloud movement. Well, I switched back to shooting 1 Bryant Park, the Bank of America Tower, and had some great cloud movement, just perfect clouds streaking across the sky, and I think I really captured it at a long exposure. And it's a good thing I did, because as soon as I looked up again after I closed the shutter, there was not a cloud in the sky, and so I think I got a decent image. Well, I think I got some good shots. I'm gonna head home, jump on the computer. Hey, if you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button to ensure that you see future videos. Until next time. Well, I got good news and bad news. The bad news is I missed my train, unfortunately, going back to Westchester. The good news is some clouds returned, some fast-moving clouds. So I walked over to the Chrysler Building, and I'm getting some good shots of the Chrysler Building, long exposure with some streaking clouds across the sky. So I'll be home a little later than I wanted to, but it was definitely worth it. I'm not going to miss my train again. Heading back to Grand Central. Got some good shots of the Chrysler Building. Once again, if you like the video, make sure you hit the subscribe button to see future videos. And this time, definitely I'm done. Well, made it home from the city. I got the images on the computer. What you're looking at is a picture of Bank of America Tower. It is also known as 1 Bryant Park. Great building. And I've already done some work in Lightroom. I converted to black and white, and I also pulled down the luminosity of the blues a little bit. That created that little bit of contrast in the sky. I brought it into Photoshop, and what I want to do is show you how I turn this image into this image. And I'll start from scratch. I'm going to go relatively quickly. So if you know nothing about Photoshop, it won't be as helpful as you'd like. You'll pick up some stuff, but if you do have questions, just put them in the comments down below, or suggestions, by the way. I'm always open to suggestions. A couple of guiding principles when I start this. One, I'm paying attention to where the light is coming from. It's coming from in back of me, hitting the front of this building. In addition, I want to highlight some of the very interesting features of this building, some of the lines and angles. I'd also mention I've already made a number of selections, the sky and different parts of the building, so you don't have to see me going through that somewhat tedious process. So let's start from scratch. I typically start by making a copy of the image, a copy of the background layer. Command J if you're on a Mac is the best way of doing that. And what I want to do is start with the sky. And so I can go, luckily I've made the selection already. Choose the sky. I want to darken it and create some contrast. For all of these edits, I'm going to be using curve adjustment layers. So I'm going to choose that tool. I can pull down on the left side. It's going to darken the whole image, certainly the darker parts of, the selection. And if I pull up on the right, you look within the selection, the brights get a little bit brighter. And so you create that nice mood and contrast. Here's the before. Here's the after. Let's start on the building now. I'm going to go left to right, and so I'm going to choose this left panel. You can see the selection being made. And I'm going to darken this. You can see it's darker than the rest of the image. I'm going to highlight that a bit more. So I'll choose a curves adjustment layer. I'm going to darken it, pretty noticeably. Now the top half of this was a bit brighter, and I want to highlight that as well. And so I can do that by reselecting, choosing a gradient tool. My foreground is black, so I will reveal what was below it. If I pull down, you can see that top half is a bit brighter than the bottom half. And you can play with it a bit until you get it just right. That's pretty good. In fact, I want to highlight this a bit more. I want to make that gradient a bit more pronounced. And so I can choose a curves adjustment layer again. What I'll do now is I'm going to brighten up the whole selection. I'm going to reselect it, go to my gradient tool. Let's go to the gradient tool here. And I'm going to pull down. Oh, wrong way. I got to flip the colors. I want the white in front. I can pull down, and you can see that nice contrast. And again, you can play with it. That should do it. You can deselect, by the way, by hitting Command D if you're on a Mac. So the next selection will be the, let's see, it is the left panel, which I call left panel bright because I'm going to brighten it up. It's this big piece in the middle. So again, I'm going to go to my curves adjustment layer. I'm going to brighten this whole thing up quite a bit. Once again, I want to create somewhat of a gradient just to make sure the eye gets led up to the top of the building. And so I can reselect, choose my gradient tool. I want my foreground color to be white. And I can pull down, and you can see that top half is brighter than the bottom half. Once again, if I wanted to, I could highlight that a bit more by choosing another gradient tool. I'm going to darken the bottom half. This will darken the whole thing. Reselect gradient tool, and then pull up from the bottom, and you get this nice contrast. Deselect that. Let's go to the next selection is going to be this panel on the upper right, which I want to make quite a bit brighter because the sun is hitting it. So curves adjustment layer, I can brighten up the whole thing. Makes a big difference, and you start to see the contrast and the lines and the angles that are very effective. The last two should be relatively quick on the right side of the image. I'm going to just generally darken these. These are not getting hit directly by the sun, and so I want to darken them and add some contrast so those lines do pop as well. So I can pull down the left side, pull up on the right a little bit. You get that nice contrast. And then similarly with the lower part of the right side, I am going to choose a curves adjustment layer, drag down on the left side, pull up on the right a little bit just to create that contrast. And you can really get a sense of what I'm achieving. Last step is always a good one, which is to take the entire image and add a bit of contrast. So pulling down on the left side of a curves adjustment layer, up on the right side, and that gives you a good sense of what the final product is like. If you have any questions, again, put them in the comments down below or suggestions. And if you like the video, please do subscribe so you can see future videos. That's it for now. Take care.